अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाज़रीन, मौलाना आज़ाद नेशनल उर्दू यूनिवर्सिटी में आपका खैर मकदम है। आज हमारे साथ बातचीत करने के लिए जो शख्सियत हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं उनका नाम प्रोफेसर पी.के. शाहजहां सर है और आपका ताल्लुक़ टाटा इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ सोशल साइंसेज से है। ये हिंदुस्तान के सोशल वर्क, तालीम और प्रैक्टिसेस की नुमाइंदगी बैनुल अक़वामी सतह पे भी करते हैं। सर, आपका हमारे प्रोग्राम में खैर मकदम है।
बहुत शुक्रिया। मुझे बहुत खुशी है कि मनु के इस प्रोग्राम में आने के लिए मौका मिला और आई कंसिडर इट एज अ प्रिविलेज to be associated with this interesting work Manu is doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, you have worked extensively in the field of social innovations and social work practices. So, will you please let the viewers know about your experiences in the field of social innovations?
Right. You know, this is an interesting area of work which I have been engaged in for quite some years now. Particularly looking at diverse issues society is facing and social work engagement with those realities. How do we bring in an approach where we can actually bring in change which is internally developed, co-created, and that change is accepted and adopted by the people wherever there are oppressive social relations existing. So considering that social work is essentially a professional engagement where people are at the center of any work which we do. So the people-centeredness is essentially the key concern or key approach we do. And particularly for social work, a very, very important value proposition which we have is the person in environment approach. So this is an interesting area because quite often the person in environment is being considered as something which is a behavioral approach. But the person in environment, when we talk about in a broader sense, it talks about the context of marginalities. It can be related to the kind of oppressive structures within which a person operates, which make people a feeling of exclusion and inability to achieve their potentials. So when you keep that idea of one of the basic core idea of social work as person in environment, this talks about how do we relate to multiple contexts in which the people are living in. Then when I was exploring working on various issues in the community, say for example I work with urban slum communities on education. One of the critical questions which came to my mind was that why do poor have a poor quality of education? Quite often we find that these children studying in probably state schools or maybe the municipal schools, it's predominantly children from most deprived backgrounds.
Sure.
So those children get the quality of education they are getting is extremely substandard. Not because the children do not have capacities, we do not have necessary resources, but there is an inherent systemic failure. So the question which is always intriguing me is why do poor children get poor quality of education? They do have the right to get the quality of education which we are talking about. When I interact with children, in children studying in 7th, 8th standard, children do not even know how to read and write and basic mathematics. This is going to create children of a different class in the world. So I started working on how do we innovate, how do we engage with this reality, what are the different ways in which you can, is it providing tuitions is a solution, is it providing necessary materials is a solution. I didn't find any of these things are possible solutions because we wanted to bring a change in the way their conditions of marginalities are existing. So social work provides that opportunity. So when I engage with that, I realize that we have a huge resources. We do not have scarcity of resources in one way. We were trying to mobilize a large number of volunteers to engage with these children and to give newer perspectives, newer ideas, and give them best of the educational possibilities without having to deploy huge resources for educational achievement. So that's where I came in to the idea that the person in environment where in a particularly vulnerable environment which children are living in, if you put the child at the center of action, if you put the people at the center of action, and there are necessary resources and the linkages which you can bring in. And my engagement with social innovation talks about how do we bring in newer ideas to deal with long-standing issues of poverty and marginalization. So this is where I try to bring in the idea of person in environment, the people-centered approach which we normally take in social work. How could I combine this with innovation ideas of like the empowerment, like changing social relations and addressing basic needs. Here the basic need was education. The empowerment, how do we make sure that these communities, these children have the necessary power to negotiate in the society when they interact with a large number of volunteers, when they get the best of the quality education through these volunteers coming from high standard scientific institutions like Bhabha Atomic Research Centre, the scientists working there, we get the best quality of education for them. And we were also trying to make this changing social relations. So the three ideas of social innovation are addressing basic needs, changing social relations, and empowerment. So I try to combine the person in environment approach of social work, the people-centered development approach of social work with the social innovation, and develop an idea called people-centered social innovation. So that's an emerging area in the field of management and various other disciplines. But why don't we look at the possibility of integrating some of these things in social work?
Social work.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. It's really interesting to know that how social innovations are bringing change in the lives of the people, using the values and perspectives of social work and the methods of social work. Sir, my next question is that how these social innovative programs can be utilized in addressing the challenges of people living with intersecting identities. For example, people living in the Northeast, we are seeing that the situations there, people belonging to minority communities.
Yeah.
So if you can put some light on this, sir.
Right. I would like to take a different case for explaining how this people-centered social innovation can be an empowering kind of a process. I recently completed a study with the fishing community in Mumbai. So this community was, traditional fishing communities. In the city of Mumbai, there are multiple locations where the traditional fishing communities are living. You can imagine in the city of Mumbai, on the seafront, these communities are living in, and they are much more cohesive, community. But at the same time, in a development which is essential for a city like Mumbai, these communities become margins. When you're talking about intersecting identities, they are the original inhabitants of the city. They are the ones who are contributing to the nutritional value of our food we consume on a daily basis. They are the one who are actually probably engaging with the society in much more holistic way in terms of their contribution to the society through the food, nutrition, everything, all of those things. And they have the right to the city. But at the same time, when a development project comes in, these people become on the margins of development. You want a city to develop for better infrastructure, better facility for the citizens. When we talk about citizens, quite often we don't even realize that they are the original inhabitants of the city. So when a development project was happening, their livelihoods were affected because this project I am talking about is a Mumbai coastal road project. So their development, which was happening on their locations of earning their livelihood, was obstructing their livelihood activities in a significant way. So we tried to engage with this community, and at the invitation of the Bombay Municipal Corporation, we engaged in a study with them. The study was to understand how this process of development is interfacing with their daily lives and livelihoods. So we ensured that the study will bring a better negotiation with the city so that their interests are protected. So what we were using was that using this idea of people-centered social innovation, they have the best knowledge of what they do, what the city, what the development, what they kind of changes they want in their life. But rather, we probably, when we engage in development projects, we think that we know the best. We know what the community needs. But the community wanted something else. They wanted improving their conditions there. They wanted their livelihoods to be protected while, allowing the development process to happen. How do we bring this idea of people's engagement, people's negotiation, people's aspirations, and weave that into the development process when we are talking about? So ultimately, we could do an interesting study to look at what kind of impact this project is having on the lives of people, and then try to minimize those risks which is associated with the project by through, say for example, compensation or a relief for the lost livelihood opportunities they had when the construction work was happening. At the same time, how do we secure the future? Because future can be secured only when their livelihood is protected without having harm coming on the way, yes, as the project goes on, and beyond the project as well. So then we talked about how do this project, the infrastructure project, can improve the conditions of the harbor, how they can improve the harbor, how they can provide necessary support for having the fuel stations installed near to their place, how we can have ice units as part of the development project itself, so that the preservation of the catch which they are having. So all of those things were put together because this is what the people really want. When the development is happening just next door or in the city, and they are just being given certain services, but how do this development is also internalized by them? Right. And that's possible only when you are interacting with them.
Yes.
So multiple ways in which we could interact. So the point about people living in intersectional identities and intersectional marginalities, social work can essentially understand people's concerns and present it to the probably the authorities which have more power, financial as well as governance and policy powers, to create opportunities which are not going to be hampering their livelihood opportunities ahead. So it's very important that social work as a profession engages with transformatory engagements, not necessarily dealing with issues coming to our forefront, particularly individual practices and community practices, but looking at a future society which is equal. Transformatory processes exactly we wanted to engage with.
Yes. Yeah. Sir, what are the ways through which we can incorporate the idea and the principles and the skills of social innovations in social work education, particularly at master's and the graduation's level, in order to improve their competencies?
I think, that's you used a very right word, competencies. How do we build competencies? We teach various methods of social work, whether it is practice with individuals or groups or communities, or maybe other methods like social action research, all of those things, methods which we talk about. But how do we make these methods much more contextual? Say for example, a research project can be on anything which they are interested. It could be on transgender communities, it could be on women who are facing domestic violence, it could be anything. But there has to be a ultimate objective for the study. It's not for your purpose you are doing the study. Yes. That's what social research and social work research is different. Social research talks about any phenomenon in the society. You try to understand the problems and associated realities. You explore that. But when you talk about social work research, you are essentially contributing to a change. Your research cannot be an independent research which will be just studied and completed in the report and get your degrees. So what we can do is that engaging with students and younger population, particularly at the graduate and undergraduate and postgraduate levels, is that research has to be a very, very important a kind of a component. That research is not just to know things, but also interventionist research where you are engaging with a reality, and that research must contribute to an understanding, but at the same time contribute to an action.
Yes.
So in this particular research which I was talking about with the fishing community, there was an inherent action engaged with it. The action was that we engaged with the government, we engaged with the community and various other stakeholders that their marginalities are addressed. So my way of looking at engaging with this in a educational process is that we teach research methodology. Methodologically, it's very important. But when they take up research on real life issues, and how do we have an objective of the research set out in such a fashion that it is contributing to probably addressing certain concerns. It could be lack of knowledge about certain issues.
Yes.
Say for example, it could be lack of knowledge about how transgender communities are facing in the context of employment. So you have an objective set to understand that, but with that understanding, what do we do with this? We can write in newspapers, we can write to probably prospective employers, we can also use that research output for advocacy purposes. So there has to be an action component in the research. So my suggestion would be the undergraduate and postgraduate students, when they do research, the faculty members will have to work with them to identify areas of actionable areas which need real engagement. So the students would also get an opportunity to study, act and engage in that praxis process.
थैंक यू वेरी मच सर. सर चूँकि हम लोग आज सोशल वर्क कांग्रेस की निस्बत से मिल रहे हैं, तो अगर सर आप बडिंग सोशल वर्क स्टूडेंट्स और जो एजुकेटर्स हैं उनके लिए कोई मैसेज देना चाहें इस फोरम से तो.
I think the first thing we need to realize that we are all learners in the process. As educators, to the educators and the teachers, I must say that we are students of social work. We are not teachers, so to say, because when we become students of social work, or we are open to new learnings.
Yes.
So the first thing is be open to learning, and be open to explore newer areas. There are clearly laid out paths for social work, be it working in a child context, working with the communities. There are certain paths which are already open. Try to look for newer paths. Can we create new pathways for social work engagement? So the social work teachers must engage with reality, must work with the community. Every social work teacher must have a field relation. And that relation is not just by supervising students in the field work, but do undertake some action programs. Yes. Do undertake some action project, research projects. Engage in research projects which will be contributing to the society. And with students, my suggestion would be that you invest in understanding from the field. The classroom learnings provide probably 20%, 30% of your possibilities of learning. From my own experience, I still take examples of my fieldwork days in my graduation, post-graduation studies. So that engage with field much more, with a full heart. You need to engage with the field. You cannot be considered as one of the things which you need to complete as part of your curriculum, but engage passionately. So the passion is very, very important. Relating to the issues of community is very important. And a change which we want to see in the society has to be the driving force. So the students, from my own learning, I can say that there is nothing better than the field to educate you in the field of social work.
बेहद शुक्रिया सर हमारे साथ इस गुफ्तगू में जुड़ने के लिए. हम आपकी बहुत शुक्रगुजार हैं कि आपने हमारी दावत को कबूल किया. नाजरीन, हमारी इस बातचीत के साथ जुड़ने के लिए आपका बेहद शुक्रिया. मज़ीद जानकारी के लिए इस पते पर राब्ता करें. आज के लिए इतना ही। आइंदा फिर मुलाकात होगी एक नए मेहमान के साथ। बेहद शुक्रिया।